Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Flock's Nest Sports Podcast. As always, I am one of your hosts, Dallas, reppin' 52 of the Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis.
As always, I'm Brendan, repping 54, Bobby Wagner, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, it is official. Both the Ravens and Seahawks season have come to an end. So obviously, this episode we are going to talk about the Ravens' final game as well as the playoff games that have come up. Also, breaking news, hirings that have come up, playoff picture, the college football national championship game. We're going to talk some of that, and we're going to start getting into kind of what the podcast is going to look like moving forward without football.
Yeah,
Brendan, do you want to kick us off with breaking news?
yeah, lots happened this week. Quite a bit happened today, actually. Most of it was today. The Titans hired a GM last week, right after
Yeah.
we recorded the other one. They hire Mike Borgonzi, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs. He worked alongside whoever their GM is now, was their assistant GM. So someone that was thrown a lot this week. Obviously, assistant GM for the Chiefs, best organization in football currently, is going to get you some looks for a job. So the Titans make the choice, hire him as their next GM. Next thing that happened, the Bears made their hiring decision. They hire Ben Johnson as their head coach. This comes after the Lions were eliminated on Saturday. No real surprise here. He was the favorite for this job to begin with. So they get their guy.
Not who I would have hired, and as him, not where I would have gone, but
Well,
that's okay.
we'll talk about some situations and what happened. But yeah, for him, not exactly the place I would have gone, but
Nope.
unfortunately, the place I would have gone did not make the decision that I wanted until today. So, you know, is what it is. Another head coach was hired today. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, gets hired to the New York Jets to be their head coach. Once again, no real surprise, was a huge head coach commodity. Gets hired to the Jets. Used to play for the Jets, actually, so
Yeah.
does have some familiarity with the team. This was a while ago, but does have familiarity with the organization and with the city. So good for him.
Good luck with that. Good luck.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say for all of the Jets' downsides, he is patient. Like Salah had
Yeah.
several years to try and make it work.
I
So
think the most interesting thing with the Jets currently is they still don't have a GM.
yeah, that he hired the head coach first is interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know what that means for when the GM comes in. Obviously, whatever GM you hire now, Aaron Glenn is going to have some say in that,
Yeah.
and whatever GM is going to want to have to work with him. So that's kind of a good thing, but also kind of interesting. The Raiders hired a GM today. They hire Buccaneers assistant GM John Spytek. Not a name I've ever heard of, but that's not surprising because it's an assistant GM.
Yeah.
I can't say I know all the GMs or even their assistants. So,
Not even remotely. Not even remotely.
this kind of doesn't come as a surprise considering Spytek was in the building with Tom Brady in Tampa
Yeah.
Bay. So Brady knew him. I think that's part of the decision here. I can't say a whole lot because I don't know the guy.
No, I
Don't
mean
know.
that's pretty much what we know is Brady knows him.
Yeah, and obviously the Bucks have been a solid organization, so hopefully that
Yeah.
continues for the Raiders. Yeah, so Spytek going to the Raiders following his stint with the Bucks. Hopefully,
Yeah.
he helps the Raiders out because they are in need
They
of some
need it.
help. They are still looking for
They
their head coach. They're one of the few that haven't decided yet, so we'll see what happens there. Another thing that happened today, um, something I was alluding to a little earlier, the Jags have fired their GM, Trent Baalke. You know, you're doing this a little late.
Yeah.
Should have done this if you're going to do it on Black Monday. People thought they were going to, considering Baalke has done some questionable things as his time as the GM. Most notably, drafting Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson in that draft. That is probably the most notable decision he's made.
Yeah.
But kind of intriguing that they waited this long and have now missed out on Ben Johnson, who was their top candidate. And he even came out and was like, I'm not taking the job if Trent Baalke's there. He didn't take the job because Trent Baalke was still there. As of when he signed with the Bears. So I don't know what they're doing now. I don't know what
And
their plan
as
is.
Ben Johnson, that would have been my top pick.
Yeah.
But I agree, not with Trent Baalke.
Yeah. And Trent Baalke was still the GM as of when he
So
signed that contract. So for him to go to the Bears made sense in the moment.
now it's really cool seeing all these competent organizations. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But it's also insane because seriously, dysfunctional up the wazoo.
Yeah, like
You're starting your GM search so late. Now you have to also hire a coach. And a lot of the top coaches have gone elsewhere. So
yeah,
you missed out on
the only
Glenn.
one
You missed out on Johnson.
like seriously left on the market is McCarthy.
Yeah. And we'll see. I imagine they'll give him a shot, maybe. I don't know. But there's still 4 more head coaching openings. You still have the Saints, the Jags, the Raiders, and the Cowboys. What they do, I don't know. The Raiders have been linked to Carroll a lot recently. We'll see if that happens. The Cowboys joined late. See what they do, and the Saints and the Jags. They're kind of still up in the air. No one really knows where they're leaning.
I wouldn't want anything to do with the Saints job.
Oh God, no.
Like
I
for
forgot.
nobody's fault. Like that's cap hell with an aging roster and Derek Carr at quarterback. No, thank you.
Someone said it. They're like, I didn't realize how bad, or they're like, I didn't realize how bad the Saints job was. But then remembered I forgot that they had a head coach opening. That's how bad it is. It's not even being talked about. It's because no one wants
nobody
it.
even cares. It's like good luck.
So if I had to guess, Darren Rizzi is gonna stay as the head coach there.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, but based on, I think he'll stay as the interim and try to not fuck it up.
Good luck.
Which, I don't know, maybe it's better for this team to just suck for a year.
You gotta do something.
And
it's shitty, but like you're at a point you just gotta start selling the farm.
You just gotta start
like
cutting people and getting rid of people.
You have no cap wiggle room. And an aging roster.
Yeah, so good luck to whoever takes that job.
Yeah.
I believe the only coordinator position still open, other than the teams we named that still have to find their head coaches, is Seattle. Because the Colts hired Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator. The Patriots have hired a couple. They hired Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator because, of course, they did. And then their defensive coordinator was also hired today, Terrell Williams. So people that have coached with the organization or with Vrabel himself. So there you go.
I do want to clarify something. He hired Josh McDaniels.
Did I say Mike McDaniel?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. It's the
it's
McDonald.
Yeah, it's all them. Daniels, the people.
McDonald.
But yeah,
Yeah,
McDonald. Yeah.
there's too many of them
So,
in the league.
and none of them are related.
Nope,
So
because they all
that's a
have
little.
slightly different last names.
But yeah, he hired Josh McDaniels.
Yes, thank you. Um, and then the Bengals are planning on. I don't think the deal has been finalized yet. It's supposed to be finalized tomorrow. Are hiring Al Golden, the defensive coordinator of Notre Dame, to their defensive coordinator job. Obviously, Golden coming off the loss in the national championship, um, but had that Notre Dame defense playing top 10 in the nation, I believe. So coming in with some pedigree for the struggling Cincinnati Bengals defense. So they hired their DC. Um, so I think most of the coordinator positions, other than the ones with head coaches still up in the air or head coaches that were hired today, have been filled. So there's that. Most of the positionings are being filled. So we'll see what happens.
Nice. Nice. Alrighty. Well, I do
Well,
think that does it for breaking news.
yeah, quite a
Um,
bit, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's that time of year. All the hiring, everyone wants to get hirings done so they can start looking at scouting, getting ready
well,
for the combine,
um, the
all kinds of fun shit.
um, All Star
Yeah,
series for college is starting, I believe, this weekend with the East West Shrine Bowl. So obviously, coaches want or teams want to have people there for that because that is a premier
yeah,
time for scouting. A lot of things happen. You get to see the best college football players go against each other. Good competition. It's really good for like the seniors of lower schools to get a chance to
yeah,
show what they got. So a lot of teams will be there. Well, every team will be there watching that. So hirings need to kind of be done soon.
yeah. So yeah, good for all of them. Good luck. Um, that's what I got. Is good luck.
Yeah.
We will probably talk about some of those things more during the off season. Um,
but
and how they handle everything and what we expect of those teams. But until then, yeah, just good luck to
just
those
luck.
teams and those organizations.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Well, since breaking news is done, I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you want to talk about the Ravens?
We will talk about the Ravens. No, I don't want to. I was right not to be worried about the Bills.
Technically, yes.
The Bills at no point outplayed the Ravens. The Ravens do have this uncanny ability to outplay themselves. And that's what happened. I I think it's lazy to blame Lamar. I think it's lazy to blame Mark. Um, it's a team effort, and this was all around a team loss. Um, I felt like defensively they took way too long to tighten up against the run. We waited until halftime adjustments. We didn't make adjustments between series, in between drives. In the first half, thought that was a problem. Obviously, Lamar had his worst game of the year with an interception and a fumble. The interception I didn't love. Under pressure, there was just no reason to try and force that throw. He could have thrown it out of bounds. Could have done a couple things. The fumble, I think, was him trying to be himself, but with a wet ball. And it's not like he's never fumbled. So I wasn't shocked by that, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
but he put this team now in a position of trying to fight from behind. Coming out of the half, obviously, I thought Lamar played really well. He didn't let his mistakes kind of weigh on him. But then Mark Andrews proceeded to have his worst game, I'm pretty confident, of his career, let alone this season.
Yeah.
His second fumble ever, the first one happening in 2019. And that drop pass,
Had a couple of those.
the first one I got over. The one for the 2-point that was harder to get over in that moment.
Well, yeah, but
I was pretty upset. I was pretty upset all night. And then I really thought about it the next day, and I think to blame any one person or any one moment, it's lazy. I didn't love some of the play calling. After his long pass to Bateman, to get down there and be first and goal, and then put themselves in a passing situation where he takes a sack. Multiple things. They end up having to settle for a field goal rather than get the touchdown. I didn't love some of the coaching, the play calling. Henry had drop balls. Mark had drop balls. Lamar threw interceptions, and it was a team collapse. I thought the PI call was bullshit. Tony Romo agreed with me. And that gave the Bills 7 points. So the whole game was 100 tiny mistakes and problems that they couldn't overcome. And they beat themselves top down. The thing that scares me and that concerns me as a Ravens fan, it's two things. It's twofold. One, I saw all the improvements and all the changes this team made throughout the year. And yet you somehow managed to end your season almost the exact same way you started it. In the Chiefs game, you needed a touchdown and a 2-point drive to get you to overtime. And Likely's toe was out of bounds. You need a touchdown and a 2-point drive against the Bills to go to overtime and try and win. And Mark drops the ball. As a Ravens fan, I've spent years saying, okay, it's Greg Roman. It's the play calling. It's we change our identity. It's all of these things. We're out of excuses. We're out of other things to blame. What I don't know is where the fuck do we go from here? Lamar just had one of the best seasons of his career, one of the best seasons of any quarterback ever, with a top 3 passer rating of all time, the first quarterback to have 4,000 plus rushing yard or throwing yards, over 800 passing yards, fewer than 5 interceptions. Like, how does this team get better to the point that next year I have faith we can win more than one division or more than one playoff game? I love this team. I'm not going anywhere. I'm always going to be a Ravens fan. I'm still a Ravens fan. I'm still wearing 52. I'll probably wear 9 next year. Like, I just don't know where you go. Like, I can look at the Seahawks and go, okay, these are things you have to improve on. These are things you have to get better at, roster wise or coaching wise or XYZ. I look at the Ravens and I go, I don't know where you go from here. And I love Harbaugh. And I think he's a great coach. And I think he's the Ravens coach. But do they need to make a change? You're gone.
I was actually going to ask this. Because we talked about this last week in our hot take section.
Yeah. I was
about
actually going to come back to that. I was going to circle back because I wanted to clarify something,
okay.
but we can do that later.
I'm still gonna ask,
Yeah,
is this a it's been enough? The message has gotten stale. The
maybe, maybe.
players
I don't know if I would pitch a fit. I love Harbaugh, and I think he's a good coach. But something is wrong here. And we've changed offensive coordinators and we've added weapons and we've done all these things. And you seriously ended the season the same way you started it.
because that was my thing with it. As we looked at it, I don't know if there was anything you could have done differently in that game,
No,
but it looked
I
like.
don't think.
But every year is the same story of the Ravens beat themselves. When
Yeah,
does that become a? It's no longer the player. It's a coaching problem.
yeah. And that's. I don't know. I'm not in that building. I'm not. I don't know. But it is the same story every year. And it's not that the Bills outplayed. If the Bills had just won,
Yeah, they just been
okay, they
outplayed.
were the better team today. But the Ravens beat themselves. And when that's what they do every year, and it's not just Lamar, and I don't think that's fair, and I also am not going to kill Mark for it. It
No,
wasn't just on him. But you think about last year, the AFC Championship game. Well, what if Zay hadn't had the taunting call? What if he hadn't fumbled the ball at the 1 yard? Like, it's just always this stupid shit
but at the same time, like you
in these
look at,
biggest moments.
and in my opinion, when in the biggest moments, I think it's coaching that elevates a team,
Yeah.
and it's the because I think a player can only do so much. They can go out there and perform, but they need their coaches and the support and all this to go out there in the biggest moments and know that they are going to be okay. I think Nick Saban said this actually. When you're coaching for a big moment, you shouldn't do anything different because then that shows you that you haven't been doing it right since the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing anything. I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm
No,
saying
I'm following.
that every time he went into a game, you kind of knew that that team was going to win because they had him as the coach.
Yeah.
The coaching always elevated that team, and that team never seemed to make mistakes in the biggest moments. And I'm not saying Harbaugh and him are similar. This is just something.
Yeah.
So I do think coaching is becoming something that you have to point at. Because
No,
seriously,
I
the past 3 or 4 years, you can sit there and go, they beat themselves with mistakes, silly
no,
mistakes.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I'm I'm not calling for his job yet. That's
I
not
don't.
where I'm at.
I would agree.
But if that change were made, I also wouldn't yell.
I don't think it's the right time to do it now. I think
But something has to change.
you're too late in the process to do anything drastic now.
Yeah.
You've already had a lot of the top coaches go. Now, whether you
Unless
hire
you
within
intended to hire
promote,
Monk.
yeah, Munkin or I don't think they'll do that, but I'm just saying it. That would have to be your plan. Is it has to
Yeah.
be a we're promoting within.
And they did their like post team meeting press conference
Mm.
already to end the season.
Okay,
And that was just full of fun information as well.
I bet it was.
Well, literally every tight end is going into their final year of their contract next year.
Oh, okay, okay.
So,
See what happens. See what
yeah.
happens.
So yeah, it was just it was a rough day. It was a rough game. I genuinely don't know where this team moves forward. I don't know how they move forward. I
I don't know.
know that next year Lamar will have a great season and they will be a top dog team and they will be in the playoffs.
And then we'll see what happens from there.
And then it goes to shit. And I
Yep.
don't know, and then I have questions. And I have to listen to every media jag off and all the other bullshit that is at this point. It's just true. Um, that Lamar is now the only quarterback with multiple MVPs and no Super Bowl. Especially if he wins the third one this year. That's gonna help. That's gonna help.
At this point, you don't want him to win the MVP this year.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much don't. If he
You
does, he definitely won't win another one without going.
Nope. He won't even be
Um,
nominated again. Well, that's probably not true.
so
They'll put his name there because they have to, like every
yeah,
year.
but like it was just a train wreck. It was a train wreck.
Yeah, that's
So, especially because there came a moment, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be a good game. And then there came a moment where I went, oh, no, it's not. It's train wreck. And then I got back to, okay, here we go. Here we go.
and then
You and I were watching it together.
yeah,
And then Mark fumbled that ball, and I went, oh, fuck, now it's over.
and then seriously, they went down the field,
So,
and Lamar did what he had to
yeah,
twice.
they drove it. And then it just,
Not good
you know,
enough.
so, yeah, it was rough. It was,
It's not a good day for football.
no,
Not a
no.
good weekend for football.
It was a weird weekend for football, I'll give it that.
Yeah, not a good weekend for football. If you're one of us, nothing we really wanted to happen happened. But
No. No.
here we are. We're moving on.
Do
Bringing
you
up.
want me to talk the other AFC game, or do you want to
Um,
talk one of yours?
Go ahead and do well. Really quickly.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bills Mafia, really quick, since we're talking about them.
Oh, yeah.
They have donated over $80,000 to Breakthrough T1D. Make sure I got that right. That is Mark Andrews' charity. Obviously, Mark Andrews did have a rough
Yeah.
day at the office.
It's so here's the thing. It's this weird, nice fuck you. Like that's what that is.
It is. It's
It's
a
like, haha, we beat you. You look stupid. We're gonna donate to your charity.
yeah. So it's still a very classy thing to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
but it is still a thank you for dropping that
Yeah.
pass.
It's a thanks for helping us win, guy.
Yeah.
So
But they could have done it different ways. So at least donating to a charity that's going to good things. Just something
yeah,
for the Bills Mafia to be proud of. They've done this a lot. Bills Mafia is probably one of the best fan bases in sports, period.
yeah.
So, congrats to them, and hopefully the Bills go and kick the Chiefs' ass next week.
Please God.
So,
Just be very careful as you approach him.
yeah.
Put bubble wrap on your hands first. Because
Ask for
I
consent
was
before
yeah,
laying hands on Prince
Patrick
Mahomes.
Mahomes. That was crazy. That was crazy. Um so because we're talking about it, I'm just gonna do the rest of the AFC.
Go
Weekend.
ahead. Go for it.
Kansas City versus Houston, 23-14. The Ravens had a bullshit PI call. It's not why they lost. I don't think it helped. I think it
No.
gets part of the blame, but it's not why they lost. The Texans had a couple
Questionable.
questionable blatant bullshit. Personal foul calls on Patrick Mahomes. Now, I do not think that's why they lost. You had multiple turnovers, multiple sacks. The Texans, at the end of the day, are not a better team right now. It's just true. It's just reality. So yeah, multiple turnovers, multiple sacks. You're not a better team right now.
Well, actually, they did not turn the ball over. That was the only game
However,
that didn't have a single turnover.
I thought they had multiple.
Nope. The
Okay, well, whatever.
Texans were the only team to not turn the ball over and lose.
Oh.
But the Chiefs also didn't turn the ball over, so.
But you're just not the better team right now.
Yeah, not even kind of.
However, the personal fouls against Mahomes were bullshit. The second one,
They don't even
I
make
give a
contact with them.
little grace to. Like, you might not be able to. Like, you do see two defenders collide pretty hard around him.
But they did it.
But because you can't see Mahomes, I'm not sure how you determined
That he was hit.
they hurt him when they didn't even make contact with him. The first one, that motherfucker should get fined for.
Yeah.
Because it's shit like that that causes defensive players to get fined. When we've talked about this, you put yourself at risk by slowing down, by flopping, by sliding too late. You've put yourself in danger.
Yeah. And that's one way to definitely get rid of it.
He clearly slows down.
Because there was one they didn't call that I thought they were going to, but they didn't, where he's running along the sideline and he slows down to try to bait the player into doing it.
Yeah.
But the guy hits him while he's still in bounds. And then there was the one that was like classic, I say classic, roughing the passer where Mahomes throws it and the guy kind of hits him, doesn't hit him in the head, doesn't hit him necessarily late, and
He's
Mahomes
within momentum.
and Mahomes goes down. They throw the flag, and then the other one that we're talking about, Mahomes slid late, and two Texas players trying to avoid him end up colliding with each other, but end up not colliding with Mahomes. That was also flagged. So
it was just it's bullshit. It's
yeah,
bullshit. But the one where he tried to bait them, he should get fined for. Like, that's just fact. I don't think shit like that can slide when defensive players get fined and all that shit. Like, you could have put him in that position. So, thought it was bullshit. No, I don't think that's why they won.
no,
I
don't.
just and I guess the final score also was 23-14. I don't remember if I said that or
I
not.
think you did, but
I don't know what to tell y'all. I don't. I hate the Chiefs. I fucking hate them. Okay. And I love the Ravens, but the Ravens want to fuck themselves. And the Chiefs just want to win. And so that's what they do. And I don't think the refs are in their pocket. I think it's because we hate them so much
that we just
it's
notice
easy
it.
to point out every time they get help or they get whatever. Like, again, the Bills got some help. This is part of football. It happens. The refs are human. They make mistakes. Don't love the calls. I think there should be consequences to fucked up calls. I think refs should get fired more, or refs should get fined. I think Mahomes should get fined for the one.
But
doesn't mean that's why they won.
Pretty much, yeah.
I also don't think it's important or necessary or helpful to anybody to sign a petition for the NFL to investigate their games. NFL watches them. Not sure what we think happens, but the NFL Commissioner's Office watches every game. The league office watches every game. They know what's happening. They see it. It's not, you know. So don't waste your time there. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So now it will be Bills Chiefs in the AFC Championship game Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, and I'm gonna watch that game, and I'm
As
gonna
well.
cry. I'm gonna cry.
That's fair, I guess. Only if the Chiefs win will I be
I'm gonna be pretty
thoroughly
upset
upset.
regardless. I will be less upset if the Bills win. I'll be less upset.
Again, at this
Still
point,
upset.
hoping for the Bills, praying for the Bills, need the Bills.
And for literally anybody but them. Yeah. Yep.
Um, yeah. So
So yeah,
okay,
I don't have a ton of thoughts. Not because I watched the game. I thought the Texans stayed in it a lot longer than I expected them to.
but at the end of the day,
Um,
the Chiefs were just
but
clearly
they
the
were
better team.
outmatched. Like that was one. Like it wasn't like the Bills Ravens game. The Chiefs were the better team.
Yeah.
Um, the Texans need to work on their O line and their receiver room,
Yeah. Their receiver
and then
room
come
just
back
needs to get
next
healthy.
year, win their division again, and let's try this again.
If they don't win their division next year, there's something wrong. So we'll see what
Something's
happens.
gotten weird. Something's gotten weird. Colts figured out how to make a quarterback.
I doubt that. I highly, highly doubt that.
You and me both. It's just the only way I see them not winning
No,
their
that's fair.
division.
That's fair.
I don't even think the Jags have a chance. I'm be honest with you. I think
Probably not.
if the Colts have a good enough roster that if they figured out a quarterback, I think they could fight for the division.
Yeah, we'll see. That one's definitely for a off-season talk because
Yeah,
a lot of that
I just
division has some turnover happening that we have no idea what's happening.
trash. It's just trash.
Yeah.
It's the worst division in the AFC.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. Jesus. I enjoy how it's the AFC South and the NFC South that are both the
Yeah,
shitholes.
and both the Norths are like
A little too
the
good,
physical juggernauts,
but also don't know how to
and
do
then
don't know how to
yeah,
play in
they
the
can't
playoffs.
win. And then like I think it's both West. Which division is the Eagle? Are the Eagles in?
They're in the East. They're NFC
Okay,
East.
so the comparison pretty much stops there.
Yeah, because the NFC West and the AFC West, there's not
Um,
no the
But the
East.
Souths and the Norths of each are pretty similar.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, but whatever.
They have 3 teams fighting for a playoffs and one
That's just there.
like little cousin that they're like, God, you're here, just go away. Like,
Yep. All right. Speaking of
all
the
right, Brennan.
NFC North and the NFC East,
Yeah.
let's talk Washington Commanders versus the Detroit Lions. Possibly the single most shocking game of the whole season.
Yeah.
Um, I'll be the first
Yeah.
to say I would have put good money on Detroit winning this game. But this is what happens when you have four turnovers. I believe it was what it was. Yeah, that's what happens when you have 4 turnovers. Jared Goff picked a really bad day to play
Have a
like
bad
shit.
day.
That was pretty much the story. Is the Commanders went out there and they played really well. You know, their defense was kind of struggling, but did enough. You know, they got the 4 turnovers, which is great. But if they weren't turning the ball over, Detroit was scoring touchdowns. Is pretty much how it went.
Yeah.
And then for Washington, they shredded a very hurt Detroit defense. I personally thought Detroit's defense would eventually be exposed for how injured they are and what's happening. I did
Yeah.
not think it would happen in this game. I knew Jaden Daniels was good. I knew that offense was talented. but my God, that offense shredded them. It
He tore apart that secondary. It was crazy.
He is so fun to watch. Commanders have got themselves quite the quarterback for the future. Um,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. They could make it to the Super Bowl this year. Um,
I have a hard time counting them out of it right now.
it, because we'll talk about it in a second. We'll talk about it further in a little bit. That man, they're such a fun team right now with Jaden Daniels playing the way he is. That offense is incredible. That defense is doing what they have to. Again, 4 turnovers, 3 on Goff with the fumble, 2 interceptions, and then they picked off Jamison Williams. That one got a
Yeah.
garbage time. Jamison Williams is a wide receiver. It's a whole thing. So like 3 legit turnovers, one of them being a pick six. That's huge. That's it is what it is. On Detroit side, this one hurts a lot. Um, Jared Goff, I think, just kind of proved that he'll never be the guy that I think can win a Super Bowl for you. As shitty as it is, he just had the worst game of his one of the worst games of his career. Can't say that when he threw 5 interceptions against the
Texans.
Texans earlier in the season, but they won that game. Had just a god awful game. You can't throw that many interceptions and expect good results. Um, and then obviously we talked about it. Their entire staff is going to explode.
Yeah.
Obviously, Aaron Glenn took a head coaching job. Ben Johnson has taken a head coaching job. So that's 2 guys that's already left. You have whoever they decide to bring with them. It seems like Johnson's bringing some guys with him. Glenn's bringing some guys with him. They have other guys that could be poached by other teams, like Seattle's trying to get their offensive line coach for their coordinator. It's a whole thing. I imagine this pretty much is going to be a whole new coaching staff, other than Dan
Yeah.
Campbell. Um, so we'll see what happens next year with the Detroit. It's going to be tough for them. I think this was their year to really get it done. And obviously, all the injuries on the defense kind of fucked them. It was kind of clear that that's what this came down to. That defense could not get a stop. They couldn't even get close.
No.
The Commanders could move the ball on them without even really trying. They had 0 pass rush. That's because Aiden Hutchinson went down. They had very little corners. Just wasn't great. A lot of credit to Aaron Glenn for getting them where they did. That's why he's the head coach for the Jets now. But this is a very disappointing loss for Detroit because it's going to
Yeah.
take a hell of a lot hard. It's going to be a hell of a lot harder to get right back where
To
they
get
were
back.
next year. And
I think for like the Ravens and the Lions to end up falling a game short of where they fell last year is like more heartbreaking.
yeah, and
Like,
especially the Ravens aren't going to have as much of the like turnover
no, they're not going
problem.
to have the turnover. But I just mean like from an organizational standpoint, from like your
Yeah,
goal is always to be like, if we can get back to there and then be better. And then when you fall a step short,
short.
you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and it's for like the Ravens and Detroit. It's where do we go? How do we get better?
Yeah,
Obviously, for them losing all their staff, that's going to be a whole thing. Like,
that's gonna be rough.
do you find better people? Do you get worse? Like, what happens here? Jared Goff having a terrible game, worse than Lamar had.
Yeah.
Didn't even look good at all. Like the first interception that was picked off had Laporta wide open, chose to be greedy, and completely fucked
Hmm.
it up. The second
It was
one,
really sad when Bridgewater looked better in the game because when Goff came out the drive,
Bridgewater handed the ball off and Williams did the rest, but at the same time,
so that's all the Lions need though. Really,
yeah,
is a game manager, not someone that's gonna go out there and put the ball at risk.
the second interception he threw, I mean, that one, Jamison Williams has the man by at least a step or two. all Goff has to do is not underthrow it, and that thing was underthrown
Yeah.
terribly. It was so easy for the corner to undercut it, get underneath of it, pick it off. So those two mistakes there, and then the fumble in the red zone, you can't be having that. That's tough. And then the fourth, Jameson Williams. That one's more on Ben Johnson trying to do too much in the moment, getting caught up in the fact that you're losing and trying to get too cute.
Yeah.
Um, but like for Detroit, this loss is really shitty for an organization in the town that really kind of needed one.
Yeah.
But congrats to
I
Washington.
do want to clarify something I said about this team last week. I stand by what I said. Because you and I got mildly combative over it, my overall point was lost. I'm not saying it for Dan Campbell specific. Like it was not meant to be like a slight on Campbell. I love Campbell. I think he's been a great head coach. I think he's a great coach for Detroit. The overall point I was trying to make is I think we just should be willing to trade coaches more often than we are. As teams and as organizations, we wait for it to go to shit. And then we fire guys. And we're kind of unwilling to see the writing on the walls of like, hey, this isn't going well. Like, I don't think it would be insane for the Ravens to look at trading Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh is a little more difficult because he is a significantly longer tenured head coach. He probably has a no trade clause. I like Campbell. He's a good head coach. I'm not putting this loss on him. Campbell, to me, is just the best example of currently a team that I think should look into trading their head coach.
We'll see. I think I
Because the other teams I think should do
don't
it
know. I don't know at this
are
point if they should.
wildly more complicated.
I here's my argument
So
right
I
now.
don't mean this year, right this moment.
Okay,
I
yeah,
mean in this general idea of where your team is at in the
because
next year or so, I would look into it.
I don't know if you because here's the thing that I think Dan Campbell and the reason I would keep him around, and we'll see after this year because I think this year will determine a lot of it.
Yeah.
Is because he's not a play caller on any side of the ball anywhere. He doesn't do that at all.
Yeah. We talked about that.
And this was my argument for him being a head coach that could go beyond that. The problem I think we're going to have is he now has to hire a whole new staff from the ground up again. Pretty much. There might be some leftovers. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. We'll see who goes where, what happens. But we're going to find out if he can nail hiring staffs the way he did this last one. If he can't keep hiring guys like this that are incredibly good at coordinators and are just filling a staff, then maybe you do.
Yeah.
Because if you can't
So
do that, then
here's my thing, because that's a great attribute to have. It's fantastic. The problem, and the reason I stand by it still, regardless, is there comes a point.
where
How
there's
do I
just no one to
phrase it?
hire.
It's not even that there's no one to hire. It's that there's nothing wrong, like we were talking about with the Ravens, there's nothing wrong with a change of voice. Sometimes that can help a team. Sometimes also,
You need some
okay,
stability.
you need stability, but you need stuff. Like you trade players for a reason. A coach is an asset that can be traded. You trade picks, you trade players, you trade these things. A coach is an asset that can be traded. And sometimes as teams and as organizations, I think we forget that. Like, so rarely do we trade coaches. And I guess I respect the underlying point, but if you're trying to rebuild or you think you're going to be in that situation, or you're trying to make changes to be a Super Bowl team, a young coach that has proven he can fix a train wreck of an organization, who does not have the tenure that a Tomlin or a Harbaugh has to not have a trade clause, is a tradable asset.
Yes, the
I'm
issue
not
with
saying because it's Tomlin or because it's
no,
Campbell specific.
I'm
It's
not
the
going to go
concept.
Campbell's. I think the issue you run into with the concept is the assets you get from trading him, whoever it may be, is the assets you
Yeah,
get, a couple first round picks or something, is it worth possibly screwing your own organization by getting rid of a possibly great head coach for someone that might not be? Let's say, okay, you fire a great head coach, or not fire, you trade a great head coach, you hire somebody, it
yeah,
works out. Great. You've got capital and a new head coach that works. That's a great
yeah.
scenario. That scenario makes me want to do it. The problem is, I think it's harder to hire. I think you'll see this. Is head coaches don't work. Some of the best don't work. You have some of the
Yeah.
best minds not working out. I think it's hard to find great head coaches. So, is it
And I don't
worth?
disagree with that.
So that's my thing with it. Is you've found one, you've done hard work, and you've got a great head coach in. Trading him, is it worth the getting other assets in the long run? As I guess
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
saying.
And that's like I can't give an answer to that. I don't know.
And no one
I
knows.
just know that I think as an organization,
And I think history would
I would
tell you
explore it.
I think history would tell you that you shouldn't do either. To be honest. History tells you to do
Yeah.
history essentially tells you to fuck yourself in this situation. Because having a head coach tenured for that long never goes well. Eventually, it gets old. You saw it with Carroll,
Well,
Belichick. You're seeing it with Tomlin. You might be seeing it with Harbaugh.
I think we've also seen
But you've
that almost no team is exclusively head coach reliant.
but this is where I was getting is then so history tells you that you should trade your head that you should get rid of your head coach before it's too late.
Hmm.
Every head coach runs its course. It's just a fact. And then history will also tell you that hiring a new head coach has like a very little success rate on whether that head coach
Yeah,
is going to work out. So really, history tells you you're fucked unless everything goes perfectly on the
perfectly.
hiring part. Is so that's my thing. Are you willing to take the risk? I don't know what the numbers are. Ballpark. I'm just gonna make this up. You have a 20% chance of hiring a great head coach that can get you better than where your last head coach was.
Yeah,
Is it worth trading someone that you know the results for now for the 20% chance that you could improve, but you have a greater chance of regressing as an organization? That's up to the individual at that
yeah.
point. And that's my
Well,
point.
and that's a fair.
Is
That's fair.
I think both of us here are right. Is history will tell you that you should not keep your head coach for more than like 8 years.
Yeah,
That's just that's just what history tells you.
it goes to shit. It goes to shit.
But history also tells you that hiring head coaches is hard, doesn't go well. So if
Yeah,
you're doing this, you have to be 100% sure the
about who
next,
you're getting.
yeah. And at this point, I don't know. if it's worth it.
No, and that's fair. That's fair. Just wanted to kind of clarify, is I felt like it seemed like I was attacking Campbell and the Lions, and it wasn't meant to be Campbell necessarily specific. It's just this concept
And yeah, I think
that I would look
unfortunately,
into that NFL teams actively don't.
and I think it's because NFL teams are weighing the risks, and I think most of them aren't willing to take that because to
And that's fair.
trade an established quality head coach for the unknown is not something a lot of teams are willing to do because that can lose you money in the long run. That can lose you a lot in the long run.
And that's fair. I would explore it. If I own an NFL franchise, I would look into it.
And that might be something to do. But I wonder if they do look into it, but they come to the
Like, I
conclusions
didn't say I would
of.
hardcore do it, and it would definitely depend on who's on the market,
I wonder if teams
but I
do
would look
look
into it.
into it. I wonder if teams do look into it and then sit there and go, well, we.
And I really don't know. I will say this. I am doing all of this without knowing what the like trade value, market value for a head coach is.
We kind of do.
Like,
I mean, we can go based off Sean Payton.
yeah, but he was not an active head coach.
That is the difference. You are correct. So looking at a non-active head coach, that was a first round pick, I believe, is what
Yeah.
the Broncos gave up. So I mean, like you can go off of that value and make some assumptions on currency. Again, who knows what that is, but you might be looking at 2 or 3 first round picks.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many teams are sitting there going, why would we give up 2 or 3 first round picks when we can hire a guy that could. That's I think the thing is
So,
why would we mortgage the
as
future?
a GM that knows his job's getting ready to be on the line, maybe you take a big swing. Maybe you have a Caleb Williams, like the
That
Bears. I
you
think
know
the
what?
Bears would be a great example. Obviously,
That
you
would be
wouldn't
the
like the Lions wouldn't give you their head coach. You're
no.
in their division.
That would be the only way that makes sense if you have a young quarterback already there. Because I don't think mortgaging your future for a head coach is smart.
No, and that's fair. But that's kind of why, for me, and I think that's the other thing, is I'm looking at it from a perspective of I think this can help both teams. Take the Lions and the Bears. Well, let's just assume they're in separate divisions.
Yeah, just
The Bears have a great roster. It's a young roster, but they need a culture guy. They need someone that knows how to win, knows how to want to win, toughness, things Caleb needs. And he knows how to build a staff. I don't need quarterback, wide receivers. Maybe I need some O line help. Maybe my quarterback needs to throw the ball. Whatever. I would give up multiple picks
for
for a Dan Campbell. And then as the Lions, I am watching an aging Jared Goff throw multiple interception games.
yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson, all these guys hurt. I need to replenish picks. Maybe I need a quarterback.
No, like that scenario
So
makes sense.
then you go and get, because we've kind of talked about, I like the D'Amico Ryan CJ Stroud situation of you got a new coach and a new quarterback, and they come in together and they're fighting together and they're building together. And I think it helps the league and it helps multiple teams if it can be done right.
That's the issue. I don't think any team would do it right because I don't think any
Well,
team is in a scenario to do it at any given moment. Because again, I don't think any team is going to want to. Because I think the head coach is different. teams are willing to mortgage for quarterbacks because they're kind of like more rare. But you look at head coaches are hired every season, and there's always somebody available, whether or not
Yeah.
they're good hires or
No, and
not.
that's fair. I am not saying that this would be the right move. I just
And I'm just saying, I don't think this ever would be. I don't know if this ever wouldn't be the right move. I think it would be the right move in very, very specific circumstances.
I think it'd be one of those. You'd have to wait and see. I don't know if that's an answer you get right away.
And it's an interesting one. It's an interesting thing. Um, but I don't think any team's doing that ever.
No, they don't do it. They're not going to. I would make phone calls.
Again, I
So
wonder if teams make phone calls, but none of those phone calls go
maybe they
well.
do. We just don't hear about it.
Yeah,
So because we don't hear about it, I'm stating that's what I would do.
I bet you it happens. Like the phone calls happen more often than people think, and it's just one of
I don't
those. It's never gonna happen, so no one ever just like GMs are like, okay, we have no need to air out the fact that we were trying to trade Dan Campbell.
I don't know.
Uh,
I don't know.
no one knows, other than GMs.
What I know is what I would do.
Well, you're not
But
an NFL
back
GM.
to no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Back to the original point though. Bummer for the Lions. Congratulations to Washington. He has officially
Definitely
had the
interesting.
most successful rookie season as a quarterback.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
crazy.
he's the only rookie quarterback to win 2 road playoff games.
I think the
So,
craziest part of Jaden Daniels' success is where he was at 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he was like Anthony Richardson.
oh yeah,
He was shit when he was playing for Arizona State. And I'm talking as bad as Anthony. Like, could run
yeah,
till the
it's
days,
terrible.
but couldn't throw the ball. And now he is nearly Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean he's playing great football. That whole team is.
So
To
I think,
see what that team has done so quickly is really impressive.
yeah,
Um, and when you think about the turnaround that franchise needed and has had, um, what I will say, because we have talked about this, if they win the Super Bowl, I'm not saying they're going to, but if they win the Super Bowl, I would not change the logo and all the stuff.
okay. Fair
Because
enough. Yeah. No, yeah.
if they don't,
Then yeah.
I if they lose the NFC Championship game, I'd be like, fuck it, we got no banner. We're gonna. It's stupid. Our color scheme and our logo are stupid. So I'm gonna change it as the new ownership group. If they win the you can't change
No,
it.
you can't. You flat out can't.
Yeah,
So
like
we'll see.
so that would be me. That's be a real bummer, but I'd get over it for a Super Bowl ring.
Fair enough, yeah. And then I don't think I said this, but the final score was 45 to 31 in favor of the Commanders.
I don't think that you did. You're
I don't think
right.
I did either, but Commanders get the win. Congrats.
Yeah, so congratulations to them, and we will see them next week
Yeah.
versus
The
Philly.
Philadelphia Eagles. Philly gets the win, 28 to 22. In a very entertaining snow-filled game.
It was a weird game.
I find any game played in the snow entertaining purely
Yeah,
because it's in the snow. Shit happens. Um, the Rams, they tried. They were in the game. They were doing everything well. And then Saquon Barkley decided he was Saquon Barkley. He had 2 touchdown runs of, I believe, over 50 yards. One of them in the snow. One of them was not in the snow because the snow came about midway through the game.
yeah.
But Saquon went off and won the Eagles the game again because, well, Jalen Hurts is not a good quarterback. Part of that was not his fault this week. He did have the knee injury during the game. But at the same time, he did not look great even before the weather turned and before the knee injury. Saquon was having to do a lot of the work. And my God, Jalen Hurts takes a lot of sacks.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that defensive line was getting to him a lot, and a lot of them were his fault. He was holding on to the ball too long, wasn't willing to use his legs even before the injury. Just shit happening with Jalen Hurts that wasn't good. Philly gets the win really because Saquon Barkley is otherworldly right now. And the Rams just had no answer for him.
Yeah, the Rams just couldn't get it done. They
Yeah,
had opportunities to tie
but
that game, and they just
they
his
kept,
O line wouldn't hold up.
and the Rams just kept making, again, they had turnovers. That was the
Yeah,
common thread for every team other than Houston.
that lost
The
was
Commanders didn't turn the ball over. The
rarely
Chiefs,
can you
the
lose the
Bills,
turnover battle and win.
every team that won did not turn the
At least
ball
not in
over.
the playoffs.
Yeah, every team that won did not turn the ball over. Every team that lost, except for Houston, turned the ball over.
Yeah,
That was it. The Rams had 2 turnovers in the game. One by Stafford, one by Kyron Williams, both fumbles, both in the snow. But that really sealed it, especially the Kyron Williams fumble. The Rams get the safety in the end zone on Jalen Hurts. They're getting the ball back with a chance to go down the field and take the lead. And Kyron Williams fumbles the ball straight to the Eagles. And
yeah,
really, from that point on, you kind of just knew that the Rams couldn't get the job done. They'd get close, but they just couldn't quite punch it in when it mattered the most. Couldn't quite get it done when it mattered. So for the Rams, a season no one really was expecting them to do well. So for them to get this far and to be as close as they were is pretty impressive, and I think that does show the kind of coach McVay is. But at the end of the day, team wasn't good enough,
he's
and
another one quick trade. He's another one.
not quite yet. The only
Um,
reason I
he
wouldn't trade him is because of the fact that he is a play caller and the fact that he is a quarterback guy, and they're going to need a quarterback.
that's fair. That's fair. I
You're going to have
respect
to
that.
develop a quarterback, and I think he can develop a quarterback really well.
I would give him another quarterback cycle.
Yeah, I'd at least give him the
Um,
chance to develop a quarterback at this
yeah,
point.
and then I would look into it.
But yeah, so Philly gets the win. So we're going to have an NFC East rivalry for the NFC Championship. So that'll be interesting. Both teams won
This
a
this game
game.
was weird for me. Like I felt like it was a mirror almost of Ravens Bills. Of like the
Yeah,
Rams were just always in it,
but every time,
but they kept shooting themselves in the foot, and
yeah.
you'd be like, "Man, you're right there. Just
And the
just
Bills
one
would,
great play or one good,"
and they'd fuck it up,
and
and the Eagles would take advantage of it.
would capitalize. And that's just kind of how this went. And I I don't want to say I have strong opinions on Jalen Hurts as a quarterback because I don't. But I do definitely have an opinion. I think I don't have a strong opinion because he's an NFC quarterback.
I don't.
Um,
I just don't think he's a guy that can
I
ever get it done.
I don't think he will ever be. I was thinking about this the other day. There are the 4 or 5 that people put.
In a bucket.
You have at the top,
You'll never.
and I just don't think he will ever be in that category.
Honestly,
To be
there's like.
fair, I am not sure that 99% of the league will ever be in that category.
Here's the issue, and here's how I would do it: is you have like the first tier. So you have tier one, the best of the best, the like top 5. You
Yeah,
know who those 5 are, and they're pretty much always that 5. Then there's the tier 2, who you're like are great, never quite move up to the 5, will never move down.
yeah,
There's a tier 3 and the tier 4. I think Jalen Hurts is a tier 3.
that's fair. That's
I
fair.
just don't think he ever does enough to where you're like, you are great and you're the reason your team loses, but you're never why you're or great where your team wins, but are never really the reason your team loses. You're just middle of the pack. You do some good things, but you're overall not great. And
Yeah,
that's where I think Jalen Hurts fits.
and that's fair. That's fair. So I don't know that that means he's not a franchise quarterback.
I
You're
just
just
don't think
never gonna be that thing.
the issue I have with Jalen, I don't think Jalen Hurts is ever going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Is really where we're at. I don't think he's
That's
ever
fair.
going to be what you need to get it done.
And that's fair. My problem is my problem with that being a problem is in like 10 years, 4 guys have won a Super Bowl. Like you know what I mean? Like,
But I think with, let's just say, without Mahomes' dominance, I
mhm.
still think if the league had more parity, Jalen Hurts wouldn't win a Super Bowl. So,
It's
like,
hard for me to say that when he was at least at the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
but I think, again, that was Mahomes. I just think any team out of the AFC would have beat the Eagles that year.
That's fair.
I struggled to see a team that did because I do not think Jalen Hurts has what it takes.
Here's what I say. I Whether that's real or not, or reality or not, I have no idea. What I do know is he is another one, no matter what you may think of Brock Purdy or what his contract may or may not be. I think Hertz is not much different. With we need an all-star team around us. And without that, he can't be successful. That's what I know.
Yeah,
He needs a great O line. He needs great receivers and running backs to support him.
but I think
He is not good enough to manage a mediocre team or to elevate a
the
mediocre team.
the issue I have with Jalen Hurts as well, and the reason I never think he'll win a Super Bowl, he was benched in the national championship at Alabama.
Yeah. No,
Nick
I know.
Saban, best head coach, benches you in the biggest game of the season for a freshman.
Yeah,
That tells me you don't have what it takes to get it done. And that's the national championship. That's not even the Super Bowl.
that's fair.
To me, that means you just don't have the
You don't have it.
yeah.
No, and
And
I don't disagree with the point.
that's just why I don't think Jalen Hurts will ever get there.
Well, I guess we're gonna find out.
God, please don't make him be the don't make the Eagles the Super Bowl for the love of God, because they will lose.
Yeah,
They don't stand a chance. Chris Jones is
probably.
too good. Saquon Barkley will not be able to run for
Well,
50-yard
I'm really
touchdowns.
hoping that it's gonna be the Bills.
Well, until it's not Kansas City, it's Kansas City.
That's
It's
fair.
pretty much how I'm
That's
approaching
fair.
this one. But yeah,
Alrighty.
so
Well, coming off of football, we also had, or nope, coming off of the NFL because it's still
yeah,
football. We had the college
college.
national championship
Yep.
game this weekend with Notre Dame and Indiana. I watched this
Ohio.
game. Ohio State. I'm sorry, Notre Dame and Ohio State. I
Yes.
watched this game.
Yes.
Did not go how I thought it was going to go at all.
It honestly went. It didn't quite go how I thought it was going to go, but it ended how I kind of thought it would.
Okay.
I thought So, full transparent, I am a Notre Dame fan. I've been a Notre Dame fan since I was a kid. I was rooting for Notre Dame in this game. This is a
Let's
shitty.
start with the score. What was the
I was
final?
getting there.
Okay. Okay.
I was
Sorry.
cheering for Notre Dame in this game, hoping they won. Ohio State does win the game 34-23. And this is kind of how I thought it would be. I thought Notre Dame would be close for most of the game, and then Ohio State would prove they're the better team and eventually kind of pull away and just win the game by 10-ish points. So
Yeah.
the game kind of went how the game ended how I expected it. Of Ohio State wins by 10-ish. Notre Dame was in it, but couldn't get it done because they just weren't good. And Ohio State was just the better team. What
Yeah.
I didn't expect was Notre Dame going down the field on the first drive and just 10-minute, I want to say 18 play first drive, and they get a touchdown. And it looked great. They were running on Ohio State. They were moving the line of scrimmage. They were playing really well. And then Ohio State responds, and then Notre Dame's offense can't go. It's just not going. And Ohio State goes up 21-7. And from that moment on, I was like, Notre Dame's going to lose this game. Like, again, at that point, I thought it was going to be a blowout. Like, I thought this game was over. It's
Yeah.
21-10 and a half. I will give Notre Dame a lot of credit. They come out of the half, and they do start to mount the comeback. They were down 21-7 at the half. At one point, they were within 8. They get 16 points, 2 touchdowns, and 2 2-point conversions, and they were actually able to stop Ohio State. It was 31-23 at one point. And again, Ohio State, with 5 minutes, I believe, on the clock, gets the ball back after Notre Dame scores, and Ohio State proves they're the better team and is able to kick a field goal to go up by, at the time, 11, and that's where the game ends. So no, I did not expect Notre Dame to go down big and then claw back and still lose by that much. So that was definitely the surprise for me.
Yeah.
I'll give a ton of credit to Notre Dame. They proved why they deserve to be there with that late charge. And Ohio State still proved that they are the better team. And Ohio State they have spent the most money on their roster. Their NIL is reported to be $20 million, which is significantly more than Notre Dame. Notre Dame, being a independent, doesn't have a ton of money to spend on NIL. Notre Dame's also a private school. There are things you have to do to get into Notre Dame other than be an athlete.
Well, and Notre Dame prioritizes education,
Yes.
not football.
Yeah.
Like, you don't go to Notre Dame
Just to play football.
to play football. Like, you go to Notre Dame for the education and the pedigree,
And
and
don't get me
then
wrong,
also play football.
they are a
If you play
great
football.
football team. So you
Yeah.
are going to Notre Dame and you are going to be on a great football team. They've always had a good football team. But you're also going for the education, and that's the main reason.
Yeah.
So for
So,
them
like, you
to
don't see the utilization of, like, the transfer portal and all those things. Because, like, you can't just get into Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And 2, that's not why you go.
No. So like they do use the portal, but it's minimal. Like their quarterback was a portal person.
Yeah.
And he played well and he did great. But yeah, so for Notre Dame to be in this situation was great. They did keep the game at least close, for the most part, with that clawback and stuff. It wasn't a complete blowout, which I thought it was going to be after the first half, because it was not good. Yeah. I think that speaks a lot to Marcus Freeman as a head coach, because they were down against Penn State at the half. They came back, won that game. That was great. They were down against Ohio State at the half, come back, make it at least competitive, force Ohio State to play and do their best at the end. And they got beat by the better team. So for that, and then again, Ohio State, they're the better team. They're a great team. Ryan Day needed this as a head coach. So congrats to everyone at Ohio State. Like they played really well all season. Their 2 losses were meh. One against the top ranked team in the nation, Oregon, and then one to Michigan, who, for whatever reason,
It's like
Ohio
your
State.
all-time rival.
Yeah, Ohio State just hasn't been able to beat them in a couple years. This one hurt for them, but at the same time, you won the national
You make
championship
up
now.
for it
So
by winning a natty.
so
Like,
for Ohio State, this season was great for them. Um, so congrats to Ohio State on the national championship. This was huge for them. They're gonna have a lot of guys going to the NFL and the NFL draft. So we'll see how they are next year, how they replenish in the portal. Um, for the most part, the same can be said for Notre Dame. You know, they're going to lose a lot of key pieces. Um, but I think with Freeman, with the coaching staff they have there, they should be pretty solid for the future. Same with Ohio State, with Ryan Day, and just Ohio State being Ohio State, they should be fine. So
yeah.
great, great college football season. Definitely a lot of fun with the 12-team playoff. Um, and I don't know if this game was definitely like a great way to end that with Notre Dame trying to make the comeback and Ohio State shutting
Yeah.
it down. It was just it was a good game. I wouldn't call it a great game. It
No,
wasn't
I
an
mean,
all
it
time
was
classic,
a good
but
game. I thought it was going to be a little closer throughout the game.
yeah,
When, like, I agreed with your point. Watching it, when Notre Dame drove down and scored, it was clear to me and to the people I was watching it with who don't know enough about any of football at any level to have an opinion. So that was crazy. Um, that Riley Leonard was doing his damnedest
yeah,
to will this team forward,
but he burnt it all
but
in the
did
first
not
drive.
have the stamina
No,
to do what he was doing. And I think that it came at a cost.
yeah, and
Um,
I think that's the issue. Is you saw Notre Dame spent all that effort to get that first touchdown, and then that offensive line was gassed, and that Ohio
yeah,
State team is so deep on defense and is so has so many guys that they can rotate in and stay fresh and keep going that I just felt that offense from that moment on could never
yeah,
regain the juice until after halftime.
and that's what it looked like. Um, so yeah, I expected it to be a little closer throughout the game, until the end, obviously, where they did claw back. I was impressed. I was impressed with their effort and their drive. Um, yeah, the better team won,
Yeah.
and in college football, that I feel like is more often than not gonna be the story. Is the
Yes.
better team wins, and Ohio State was. I don't give a shit about Ohio State versus Michigan. I have no
Rooting
I have
interest.
no thoughts on that rivalry. I have no thoughts. I don't give a fuck. Um, I know everybody I know is an Ohio. I don't think I know personally a Michigan person. I am taking note of that in my life. Um, like I know of people, but like I don't know personally Michigan people.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So just congratulations to Ohio State. I thought it was really cool to see Notre Dame in the
Yeah.
championship game. Um,
Again, great
it's been a
season
long
for
time. I have a lot of respect for them as an organization and as a school. So yeah, I thought that was great.
for Notre Dame to get here was definitely huge. Because they had to win. I'm gonna get the exact thing here. They had won, I believe, 11 straight,
God damn.
or maybe it was 13. I can't remember when they lost to Northern Illinois. That would have been the second game, I believe, of the year. So, no,
Yeah,
they ripped off, I think, 13 straight to make it to the national championship. So, right there alone, that's impressive.
yeah. That's a great season. Um, especially for a team that like nobody was talking about. We were talking about Texas and Bama and Oregon and Colorado
Mm-hmm.
and Notre Dame was just kind of off doing its own thing. And yeah, really great for them.
It was. They had to win 13 straight to even get to the national championship. Um,
So
At some point,
Yeah,
that was
that's
going to
great.
come to an end. Again, Ohio State is just a better team. Um, so congrats to them. And I think both teams will be right back to the playoffs next year. That's my guess. Is Ohio State's a great program, and Notre Dame should be continuing to improve because
Yeah,
I think they have the coach in place. And I will say, Notre Dame has made the most money by making it to the national championship than any team that was in the playoffs
I believe that.
because of
I believe
how
that.
NIL works now.
And how they're set up and everything. And
So, how NIL works is it goes by conferences. So,
oh, because
because
they're an independent team.
they don't split money with anybody, all that money
Nice.
goes straight to them. So, all money they gained from the wins, making it to the national championship in NIL goes to them, whereas Ohio State has to split all that money with the rest of their conference. Now, obviously, they're going to get a higher percentage, but
Yeah,
they
but they
do
do have to
still have
split
to
it.
split it.
The NFL is the same way. You have to split all football revenue between all 32 teams.
Yeah.
So, and players, and like, it's the same way.
So, yeah, that's my point. I think both teams will be right back to maybe not a national championship next year, but at least the playoffs. Um, so it'll be great. Looking forward to college football next year. There should be
Heck
some
yeah.
small changes. I do think they've met already, and they're not making any major changes, but they are going to make some minor ones. So we'll see what that is. Bring any news we get on college football and how it changes when it happens. So yeah, all good there.
And let's move on to next week.
Yeah,
Final week of playoffs before the Super Bowl,
yeah. NFC Championship, AFC
NFC
Championship.
and AFC Championship games. So, like I mentioned, Buffalo is at Kansas City at 3:30 Pacific time, 6:30 Eastern time. I think it's 4:30 Kansas City time.
Okay. I don't know why that matters, but okay.
I just figured I'd share, you know?
No, that's fair. It's I just,
Like
I have no idea
I
what
think
time
it's
Kansas.
technically
I have,
4:30. 4:30 or 5:30.
I have no idea what time Kansas City's on. So it's either Central or Mountain, and I don't actually know. While she's looking that up, the Washington Commanders are going to Philadelphia to play the Eagles in the NFC Championship. That game is noon Pacific. That would make it 3 Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then since they're both Eastern, it's 3 o'clock in DC and Philly. So there you go.
It will be 5:30 in Kansas City.
So they are Central Time.
Yep.
That's random.
I was like, they're either in line with Colorado or they're an hour behind, and that's I didn't know.
I wasn't sure because I knew tech part, like the part of Texas, is
Yeah.
technically Central, but I couldn't remember how far into Texas that is.
So
Cool. All times are right, apparently. So yeah, Washington, Philly, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, and then KC,
any
Buffalo, 3:30 p.
any predictions for Washington Philly?
Personally, I want Philly to win. Or no, personally, I want Washington to win.
Okay, I was like, what?
I think Philly's gonna win. We'll see. It. I think it'll come down to who plays better, Daniels or Barkley.
That's fair.
I think it'll
That
be.
is fair.
I think if Washington can do better than anybody else against Barkley, they'll win. Otherwise, it'll be Philly. So we'll see.
I would really like Buffalo to win.
Well, no shit.
I'm not going to
Yep.
because nothing has shown me that Buffalo can actively outplay Kansas City. You did not outplay the Ravens. And yeah, I'm just not sure that you can do that.
The problem
I
I have,
understand that you beat them in the regular season. I don't care. In the regular season, the Ravens smacked the shit out of people. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant as fuck.
yep.
I would love for Buffalo to win this game. I would love for literally not Kansas City to win this game.
And until Kansas City loses to a team, I can't really pick against them. So
It's hard. Yeah. So
we'll see what happens. But
I
I
do
think
think it will come down to how both defenses play and if both teams can mitigate the mistakes.
this is another situation like the Ravens and Bills were. I think first team to make a mistake is going to lose. Whether that's Josh Allen does something stupid or something happens. First team
Yeah,
to make like an actual mistake loses. Whether that's a turnover, penalties, whatever it is. But that'll be how the game goes.
fair enough. I agree. I agree.
And then yeah, for the Eagles Washington, I think it genuinely comes down to can Jaden Daniels' arm outdo Saquon on the ground? And that'll be
I think it has potential. I think it has the capability of it. Whether or
I think
not,
it could easily happen. It's whether the Commanders defense plays well or not.
yeah.
So we'll see. We will
And he has
see
struggled against
the
the
Eagles
pass rush a bit,
specifically.
and the Eagles have a good D line.
But they are
So
1-1. They each won a game in their rivalry so far. So I do believe the Eagles won in Philly and the Commanders won in DC. So I think it was home and home. I'm not 100%.
Commanders also won against backups.
They played before that. I thought.
Nope, that was the game he went out in.
Was it?
Hmm.
Hmm. Well, I mean, Jalen Hurts and his backups aren't that much different. And I would
That's
say
fair.
his backups are better at some things. So we'll see
Also,
what happens.
they throw the ball better. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. And Saquon can do Saquon things no matter what quarterback is there. So
Yep.
we'll see what happens. I think that does it for us this week.
Awesome.
I think, again, NFC Championship, AFC Championship should be really fun next week. Talk about those games. We'll see what happens with other hirings or firings if you're dysfunctional as fuck and decide that you want to fire
If you
somebody.
fire somebody at this point, I don't know.
There's no
So,
helping you. I think the
yeah,
Jags pushed that as long as they could. So we'll see what happens
and it
there.
fucked them. Fucked them.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Jags, good luck. Anyone still waiting on someone to be hired? Good luck. That includes Seattle. But yeah, that being said, next week should be great. Get to talk about the championship games and any other hirings, and maybe some other sports, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
But that being said,
Hopefully, we're getting into that time of the year.
I've been Brendan,
I've been Dallas.
and this has been Flocksnest Podcast, and Boomer is also here. Say hi.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. Keep updated on all of our new videos and stuff.
And thank y'all for watching. See you.
Bye.